Just want to insert this quick little voiceover before the video starts. This is a really easy job, but this video is a little longer than you might see from other creators because I wanted to be as detailed and as informative as possible. I highly recommend that before you even attempt this job, even though it is pretty easy, make sure to watch this entire video at least once before you proceed. With that, enjoy the show. All right, y'all, welcome back. It's Philip Thomas here with my 2009 Ford Focus SES two-door coupe. Now, this car is going to be getting its own introductory video on the channel in the next little while, but today we've got something to take care of. This is a process that's going to apply to all Ford Focuses, coupe or sedan, from 2005 to 2011. Now, the 2005 to 2007 models, there may be some differences, so if you can find a better tutorial that's suited for those vehicles, I highly recommend you go watch that if you've got one of those cars. Anyways, for 2008 to 2011, again, 2- and 4-door models, this video is for you, because we're going to be replacing the window regulator in my car. Now, I've actually already done this entire job, and I'm ready to share with you all the things and tips and tricks that I've learned, as well as how to avoid killing some things. Foreshadowing there. And I would say foreshadowing here, but this is going to happen no matter how careful you are or are not. We'll talk about it. But first, let's talk about the tools and equipment that you'll need. First, you'll need a regulator, which I don't have because it's in the door, and the old one has been recycled already. But you'll need to go online, whether that's Amazon, eBay, Rock Auto, A1 Auto, or even to your local junkyard, and pick up a window regulator assembly. And that's the first thing I want to talk about really quickly, because the reason why your window stops going up and down is really important. Because if your car's like mine and the window one day fell down into the panel, but you can still hear the motor spin whenever you actuate the switch, then everything is fine electrically, and you'll be good to just replace the regulator assembly, which will almost always come with a motor. Now, if your window stops going up and down and you do the switch and nothing happens, well, I wouldn't count out the regulator assembly itself. A big possibility is that there was some crazy amount of resistance and the motor actually burnt itself out trying to overcome that. It got too high, it pulled too much voltage or something. So you'd come under here to the fuse panel and, deep down in there, and you would inspect the fuses and see which one is burned. You'd go to your owner's manual and you'd find that part of the documentation. But what I'm trying to say is the reason your window stops working is important, because you may be looking at just more than swapping in a new part, but that's a bigger conversation for another time. In my case, it was the fact that someone left a bunch of adhesive on here. Now, this tape, this is all me from when the window fell in. I had to keep it up so the rain wouldn't get in, but like all of this here, this thin, really crappy stuff at the top, that's all from the previous owner. And so I'm assuming that whatever happened, if they spilled something on the top of the car, like coffee or something really sticky sweet, that caused a lot of resistance for the assembly, and the plastic clips that actually hold the window in eventually failed. And we'll talk about all of that here in a little bit. But let's start by looking at the tools and equipment that you'll need to do the job. Now, I've got this glue gun and this rag so that I can clean off that adhesive. We'll talk about it never, because that's a very me-specific thing. But what you're going to need is a driver, whether that's a drill, whether that's a socket wrench, whether that's a regular wrench. You'll need something along these lines. I've got a stinger with an extension with a screwdriver adapter for my 6, 8, and 10 millimeter sockets. You're also going to need a T25 Torx bit and a T30 Torx bit, 25 and 30. And with that, you're basically good to go. You'll also need a flathead screwdriver and a Phillips head screwdriver or a Phillips head bit. We're going to start up here with the power mirror control. Now, when you do this job, anything in this door, you're going to take this off and it's going to come off just fine, and it'll break. It will 100% of the time be broken. And I know this because I have another Ford Focus, my 2008 sedan, and even before I had done the exterior door latch job on it, this had already fallen off, and it had been off for like 10 years. So don't feel bad when yours comes off. But all you'll do to take it off is just grab it and pull. And then once you have it exposed, you'll grab this connector, push down with your thumb, you'll grab the mirror control, you'll separate them like so, and it'll come right off. Now we're going to head to the left side of the door. I'm going to open up this bad boy, and we're going to take off not only this Phillips head screw, but also this one, and that one. With those screws removed, our next job is real difficult. I know, wasn't that such a big challenge? Now, from here, you pop off the window switch controls, and just like earlier, you're going to push down on that and separate these two, but of course I have to do that while I'm not holding the camera. With that done, our next job is to open up the door handle here, and you're going to find a small area. I don't know how to highlight this. No, I can't do it with the camera. But you're going to pull out this piece of plastic trim. Here we go. Easy peasy. With that done, we now have access to all the hardware that we need to access in order to get this door panel off. This one and this one are T30, while these two smaller ones are T25. Now, earlier I had shown you my extensions here. I've got a stinger in here and then an extra stinger with the adapter for my bits, because these two right here are just so far in the door. But what we're going to do is just take them out, all four. And with that done, I've got the two big ones in here. The two small ones are in there. I don't have a small enough magnet tool to actually get in there and reach them out. So just be careful when you take the door panel off. Those are going to fall out. So just watch the ground for that. But now we're going to take our flathead screwdriver. We're going to pry around on the side of the door. And if you don't want to do this with the screwdriver, you can just pull right there near where the window is. But you just need something to pry, probably against the paint. I'm going to grab my rag for this, and you're going to pry the door off. All right, and good news. I went ahead and I pried all the way around using my fingers mostly, thank goodness. Don't want to damage this fantastic 20-year-old Ford paint. And a couple things to note. Make sure the lock nipple is in the lock, down position. You might have to press it down a little bit. And when you're pulling the door off, you're going to want to pull up at the same time. That'll help you clearance this guy. Now, over here, I'm not going to be able to show this on camera, but I actually ended up breaking the internal electronics of this lock switch. So I can't lock the car from the inside anymore. Really annoying, but not a huge deal, because, well, that one's over there. I might even try to swap parts one of these days, or just, fix it properly with the new part. But anyways, when the door comes off, there's the connector inside of there, and it's very short run of wire. So make sure that you get in there. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver, and you're going to undo that clip. You might even be able to use your thumb, just depends on your exact experience with electrical clips, and you're going to unclip that. After that's unclipped, and I was able to use my thumb, we've got this to deal with. This is the interior door lock. We're just going to pull or push on that plastic, and mine came out entirely, but if yours doesn't, it's going to end up like this. You're just going to pull this thing out of there, and you're good to remove the door panel in its entirety. Let's set it against the card and make sure to scratch my extra nice paint. Extra nice, quote unquote. And I just want to talk about this for a second. Look at all the sound deadening and anti-vibration / NVH material in here. Even this little piece of foam. It's really, I guess, just impressive to see what effort Ford went through for such a cheap little car to actually make it a nice place to spend time. And really, these cars are pretty nice for what they are. Now, quick thing to note, if you take out your door panel in this guy, makes like that, here's how to put it back in. You're just going to, flashlight on for you, realign it. You're going to push in, and you might have to push to the right to make sure it lines up with the hole, just like so, and now you'll be good to go. So the next part of our journey is to take out the speaker. And again, cost cutting aside, for such a cheap car, this is a nice speaker. When I first did this job, I was for sure this car had aftermarket speakers, because already it's a great sound system, like 350 watts, subwoofer in the trunk. And look at this speaker. It is a dual cone coaxial speaker. So this car has a 9-way sound system, and it was $20,000 brand new. What the heck? Anyways, 6 millimeters, get those out. With those out, the speaker will just gently pry away. You may have to use your flathead screwdriver again to gently pry it away. That exposes the connector, and this one does require a flathead screwdriver, or you can press down here on your thumb, just kind of depends on how skilled you are, to remove this connector. Now it's time for the fun part. We gotta rip away all of the vapor barrier. And don't worry about damaging this butyl tape. It's really easy to work with. It won't hurt your hands. Although if you do have really sensitive skin, I'd recommend some latex or vinyl gloves. But you're just gonna rip this all the way off with your hands. Don't use any cutting tools. With the plastic vapor barrier ripped away, we can see everything that we need to see, including 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 8mm bolts. And I know some of you are probably going to laugh at my $20 Hyper-Tough drill, but I have a much nicer drill. Admittedly, it is from Hyper-Tough, but it has a way larger battery. It's supposed to be way more powerful. It's even got a hammer drill and impact setting. But this little guy, just on the regular old drill setting, was able to undo these 8mm bolts when that big hammer drill, Hyper-Tough hammer drill, couldn't do it. So don't knock it till you try it. But now we're going to remove all of these 8mm. But first, I want to talk about some of the, stuff. I want to show you what this looks like. So here's your motor. It's pointed up that way. And your 2 rails for the window, or for the glass, are vertical. I thought they were horizontal. Don't laugh at me, okay? The first time I did this. So make sure that when you put this back in, they're vertical. Just keep note of all this, how this looks. Screenshot it, save it for later, whatever you want to do. And also, if yours broke in the same way mine did, these clips for the window glass are actually going to be broken. So these will be laying down here where the plastic pieces will, and then the metal and rubber will still be attached to the glass. So what you'll want to do there is you'll want to lift the window up with your fingers, and you can tape it to the door or whatever you want to do. Get this up to a level where you can stick a socket or a wrench in there. Get access to these 10mm bolts, loosen those, get those pieces off of the window, because we are going to need to get everything off so that the new stuff can go on. But yeah, 8mm bolts, get those taken care of. Alright, so we're at this point now. We've got all the bolts loose, and the whole assembly is loose inside the door. So this is a good way to show you what it would look like if yours wasn't broken. Maybe the motor burnt out due to a lot of resistance or something. Everything here is still intact. And so what you'll do to take everything out, since this is still attached to the glass, you're going to want to, again, move the glass if you can. If yours is broken, you should be able to move things up and down fairly freely. And you'll take a 10mm wrench or socket and just loosen this. And there it is. There we go. And that 10mm bolt, you're just going to loosen those up, and you can see we've even got a little access port. That's why I've also got so many extensions, because I can put my 10mm on there. And that's why I've got deep well sockets. You don't need deep sockets for this job, but they can be useful. We're going to go ahead and loosen those 10mm bolts now. And a little bit later, we now have the glass nice and loose, and the regulator assembly is nice and loose. So this is going to be kind of hard to show. I'm going to do my best to explain it because I don't have a tripod or anything for this phone. I used to have a nice tripod and a much nicer phone, but you know what they say, life happens, and you end up making YouTube videos on a Motorola. Anyways, let's see if I can show this. This smaller one on the left comes out first with no motor attached. We'll make sure to get this connector out of the way, just like so, and everything slides out through the largest hole in the door here. There we go. And then you'll follow suit with the larger one. Don't forget to unplug, and your motor will have no extra cable on it. You'll just have this connector here. So yours will probably be in the door a certainly different way, or slightly different way. Just undo this connector with your thumb. And now with the regulator out, it is conveniently raining. So we're going to wrap this up real quick but I've got it laid out here on the ground so you can kind of see how it's going to be in the door. But this is exactly how it's going to look in the door. You've got your right channel and your left channel. They're pushing the window up, pulling it down. And you've got your motor here with this Chinese one from eBay has a long pigtail on it, probably because whenever they come out of the factory, they just adapt something onto there. But anyways, this is how it's going to go into the door. So when we took it out, we took the left side out first. But when we put it in, the right side's going to go in first. And you'll just have to mess with it. I was able to do it without any video information at all, so I'm sure you guys will be able to do it with this advice. But I'm going to also quickly go because it's raining and my speaker's on the roof. And we continue in the rain with the mighty umbrella being held up by the mighty car. We've got the regulator in, and here is my advice. Again, the right side with the motor goes in first, followed by the left side. Kind of a motion like that. If this makes sense, I don't know, but it's pretty easy to do. There's plenty of space here. But now, I'm going to give you the most important piece of advice, which is how to line these bolts up so that everything goes in. And you're going to want to do these two first so that everything else will just line up nice and easily. So, that's your first bolt. Your second one is to the right of that. See if I can zoom in a little bit. Right there. So, left and then right. Sorry about the blurriness. Again, that Motorola camera. Now, before we get this bolted in, well, to do that, you're going to just stick your 8mm in there and then kind of line this up with your hand and get them barely threaded in. Start with one. That way you can move things up, get the window to meet these clips on the rails. God, there's so much terminology here, but you want these to meet the glass. And once they're in the glass, you're going to be able to bolt them up. So you'll tighten that. You can do finger tight if you can get your hands in there. You could do a wrench. You could do your drill like I'm going to do. You want those to be nice and tight because they have to pull the window down. So don't be scared about cracking glass. This is tempered after all. It takes a lot of effort, especially spread across this much surface area. So don't be afraid to tighten those down pretty severely. And there's a leak, grandson. You've got to hurry. Anyways, just follow that advice and you'll be good to go. Let's see where things take it. Alright, first one is threaded in by hand, and it's super easy when your glass is completely loose like this, because it should kind of stay in place. Again, you can tape it if you have to hold it up a little bit more, but everything just kind of moves. So I could push the glass down into that, and oh, I did it poorly. I'm going to try that again. You want it to go inside of the rubber, and I hope you guys can see, because I'm kind of going blind. And you saw how I did there, how I slid it from the bottom like this. I slid the clip onto the glass. I slid the clip onto the glass like that. That's what you're going to do on both sides. All right, so here's a useful piece of advice. If you've got a setup as janky as mine for your 10mm and you're tightening that bolt through this hole or whichever hole yours is aligned with, you know, any of these, or you have to move it up or whatever. Anyways, when your setup is that janky, your 10mm is probably going to fall on the door. That's why you should use your phone, start a video recording, and use the flashlight. That way, you can reach in. Oh, I'm so close. And you can grab. My whole arm is inside the door. Holy crap. Ugh. You're 10mm. And now we're moving on to the left side. And I've got this bolt hole almost lined up. Let's see if I can find it for you guys. Yeah, it's very close, but it won't go any more upward. Because if we look in here, well, that's not right. This should be touching the glass. So we'll move everything around, line it up, and we'll slide the glass on around as it needs to be done. And it looks like the glass is in the wrong spot. The glass should actually be behind the black metal, not in front of it. So we'll pull this down and we'll shift it around. Okay, and I'm glad I made that mistake because it gives me the opportunity to show you guys what's going on. So I had to undo this bolt and this one, give myself a pivot point on this loose bolt. I had to untighten the clamp on the glass over here so that the window can go up and down again. And then I was able to pick the glass up over here, pull this thing down, swivel it, and now it's in front of the glass as all things should be. So now we're going to get this clip lined up with the glass and go from there. Okay, so we've run into a unique problem. Oh, crap. Hello, come back. So, the 10mm for the clip is right there, but I can't get to it, you know, with the drill here or in through here. I could use a 10mm wrench, but I wouldn't get enough torque into that. So I've got to move this whole assembly down so that I can access that 10mm right around here. So I'll show you what to do there in just a second, but first, to get this to that position where the glass is lining up, put your 8mm in here, line this bottom part of the bar up, and then you can pull the glass down as long as it's not fully attached over here like it's not right now. Then you can line this up, and then you can do what we're about to do. which is have the motor plugged in, the car is on, window switch is plugged in, and we're just gonna move things down a little bit. Might have to fight the glass a little bit to get it to come down. Here we go. And now it's meeting us right there where I can access it with the drill. How handy is that? Alright, now, I could go ahead and tighten this one up because it's lined up, but this one over here wasn't lined up. The clip was behind the glass, so keep this guy loose, get it lined up, pull the window up or down as you need to, make sure they're both lined up so that the glass just falls into them as they're sitting. And again, we've only got one bolt in each part. Okay, well, 2 bolts over here, whatever. 1 plus 1 is 2, same difference. Anyways, get those lined up, everything will fall into place, and tighten these up, and we'll go along with our merry way. Alright, now this varies. Tightness is important. You don't want to break the glass or strip anything out. So on my drill, I've got up to 18 different selections for the tap-out mechanism, or whatever you want to call it, for the clutch, I guess, where if you apply beyond a certain amount of torque, the drill just spins, like so. So I'm maxing out my drill here, and it's really not that much torque that we're putting in. So that's the amount that I'm using for the 8mm and the 10mm. And if you want to go a little bit beyond that, you can, but just be warned, it might kill your window. So just better safe than sorry. You know, it's good to test things out as you get everything bolted down with this much torque. And if you've got to go with more, you can go with more, but you can't come back from a piece of broken glass. Alright, and now for the final test, let's make sure the window goes up and down, and as you can see, it's already fully up, so you know what's going to happen. Very, very good. Very, very nice. Now, quick note, watch what happens up here. It slows down, and it kind of wants to go a little more. You can feel and hear the resistance. So that tells us there's definitely a little bit of dirtiness up here, probably up here inside the channel. And I've already cleaned that out pretty good, so I'm not super worried about it. But if yours is doing something similar, isopropyl alcohol and or Goo Gone like that, clean everything out with the rag. You can stick your rag at the tip of a screwdriver and dig into this channel. Really make sure you get in there good. Reduce resistance, because otherwise you'll end up damaging this whole assembly that you just spent 1,000 hours repairing. But speaking of which, it's now time to put everything back together, and the first step is putting the plastic sheet back over the window, or the door. Now, because mine's wet, I'm going to shake it out and make sure it's relatively dry. It can be fairly moist, especially on the inside of the door, because that's what this is designed to keep out. Water goes in here, and then it drains out of the door, drains in. You know, this door is pretty clean and clear on the inside. A little bit of crud, nothing bad. But, yeah, we're going to go ahead and put that in, and a couple things to keep note of. This needs to be unplugged, and its wire will feed through. This is going to need to feed through the plastic as well. This will, so just make sure everything feeds through that plastic and its intended cutout. With that installed, here's what it looks like. We've got the nipple feeding through here, the door latch feeding through there, door lock, mine doesn't work, remember, feeding through here, mirror control feeding through there. Make sure to dry those out, I saw that water coming off. Power window switch feeding through the middle there. And now we're good to go ahead and put the speaker back in. Remember, those are your 6mm bolts. Alright, so the phone is about to die. Apparently recording high definition video at high frame rate with the flash on isn't great for your Motorola's battery life. Anyways, we've got the door panel back on. It's really easy. Once you get the speaker back in place, you're going to route this in through the little side port over there. You're going to just let this kind of route up through the top. You're going to reconnect the connector back there, and remember, you're going to have to be holding the door panel while doing all this. That's why I wasn't able to show you. And then this, make sure the door is in the unlocked position, or if you just like hating yourself, you can have it in the locked position like I did. And it's pretty easy to just set this whole panel on top of everything, make sure it lines up. And then once it lines up with here, it'll clip into place, and you can kind of push it to help it. And then once it does that, line it the rest of the way up, and then beat on it like it's your ex. Okay, wait, that's a little too dark for this channel. Anyways, once you've got this all clipped into place, we're going to put our bolts back in, and you can see I'm going to have to go through the vapor liner. I didn't do a very good job lining up that hole, did I? But not a huge deal. It's okay over here, down in here. But anyways, we're going to put those bolts back in. Then we're going to reconnect this switch, we're going to put that piece of plastic back in, we're going to put the switch back in, put this trim piece back on, put this trim piece back on, and again, yours is going to be broken, you might want to use some sealant. I took some of the butyl from the foil barrier, vapor barrier, and I put it on my little trim piece here. I'm so sorry you guys can't see that. Hopefully that'll help us out. I've also got a whole roll of tape to shove inside there just to get some adhesive surfaces. And with that, you now have a working window in your 2008 to 2011 Ford Focus. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed or got any use out of this video, make sure to like and subscribe for future content.